I'm at the end of Final Fantasy VII now. I haven't been playing it on stream or anything like that, but I've been like casually playing through it, like when I'm just taking a break from doing whatever, and uh, it's really not very good. Kind of surprising to be saying this after like saying that like I'm such a big fan of the game, but like the second half of Final Fantasy VII, after Eris dies is really not very good. I suppose I said that back when I first played the game, right? But wow, compared to like Final Fantasy VI second half, compared to like um, Bad Kaitos Origins, compared to like so many other great iconic JRPGs, like Final Fantasy VII kind of falls apart in the second half. Like it's mostly filler. It's mostly you going back to the locations you've already been to before. It's mostly a bunch of pointless boss encounters. Like, why the fuck are you even still in conflict with Shinra at this point? Like, I don't understand that. Like, it just kind of doesn't feel like it comes together all that well at all. Like, it really doesn't for the most part. Like, Final Fantasy VII really was a mistake when you get right down to it. Like they made a platform jump to a new console, and the game is worse off due to it. Like Final Fantasy VI is a lot better. It has better characters, more interesting mechanics, a better finale. Like all around, a much more solid, compact, complete game, and a longer one if I'm remembering correctly. Six Final Fantasy VI. Uh, I I might be I might be like I'm misjudging this here, considering I was like playing on the Switch which has like a times three like speed thing, which I was using like liberally. But like I got through Final Fantasy VII like really quickly. It felt like a really quick RPG. Meanwhile, like Final Fantasy VI, like oof, there's so much shit to do in that game, so much shit to accomplish, and like so much good side content and like hidden characters and stuff like that. That's gonna keep you playing for like a long time. Like I love Final Fantasy VI. This is Toronto Trigger. I think is better than this. Like you know, like my feelings for Final Fantasy VII, they remind me a lot. It's the opposite of like the typical Nintendo game, right? Like with Nintendo games, I grow to like them more and more as I get older. Like I've been talking a lot about how like Super Mario Galaxy has gotten better. I've talking a lot about like how I like Chrono Trigger a lot more than I used to. Like I've gone on record about that a lot, but somehow Final Fantasy VII of all games is worse, and I think there's a good reason for that. It's just not as good as the typical Nintendo titles. Like the PS1, by and large, actually the entire PS1 library could not compete with the N64 at all. Like I'm still discovering great N64 games that blow this out of the water, like in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, like I feel like Ocarina of Time blew this out of the water with its like 3D visuals, its combat, its dungeon design, its story. Even like you can argue it's simpler and easier to understand, but it comes off as like more impactful and meaningful. Like I don't think anyone, like even hardcore fans, really understand the plot of Final Fantasy VII. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having these weird fan wank theories about like oh man, did the world end at the end of Final Fantasy VII? Like, well, that wasn't really like implied in the actual game. Like it's just some bullshit theory that someone came up with on message boards and people just ran with it. like like it's a lot like Final Fantasy VII in a lot of ways was the originator of like the overrated PlayStation exclusive, right? Where people infer things about it that were intended by the developers. Like we've seen this with The Last of Us as well, where like people tried to present the ending as being more ambiguous than it really was, when like the developers were pretty clear that it was supposed to be that like Joel was in the right, if I'm remembering correctly. What was he supposed to be in the right? I'll have to look up what Druckmann actually said, but the general idea is that like people tried to make that ending come off as more deep and complex than it actually was. in favor of like pretending the game was some cinematic masterpiece when really it was a piece of shit. Like The Last of Us was never good. Uncharted was never good. Deal with it. That's all I have to say about that. Um, Seven, Final Fantasy Seven, in a lot of ways, is the same way. Like there are things I like about it, right? Like it certainly isn't a bad game the way that like Final Fantasy, The Last of Us was, but like it clearly is the decline had already set in by this point. Like people always ask when Final Fantasy started being bad. Like people come up with like people say 8, 10, 10, 2, 13. But like I think it started with 7. Like like the signs are all there. Like you have this over reliance on story over substance. You have this you have all this filler. You have this all these plot elements that don't really go anywhere or fit together very well. Like Final Fantasy VII could have been something great if they had stuck with the 64 like they should have, but they didn't do that. And as a result, they have a middling, mediocre RPG that no one really, no one truly remembers or cares about.